French filmmaker Jean Reno suggested that the marvelous thing about westerns is that they are all the same film. This gives the director unlimited freedom. Whether you agree with Renoir on this statement, one can look at Renoir's statement and apply it to directors, in which a director's signature style, that in itself is like its own separate genre, forms. The auteur theory. The auteur theory was first coined by American film critic Andrew Sarris in 1962. It was conceived during the French New Wave movement following the Second World War, when French viewers viewed films in quick succession due to the backlog of films at the time. Audiences soon came to notice patterns and connections between differing filmmakers. According to Sarris, directors would be considered an auteur if they could adhere to three basic premises, these being technical competence, distinguishable personality, and interior meaning. He claimed that an auteur is established over time, ranked according to the body of work rather than that of isolated films, as well as recurring stylistic and thematic characteristics that characterize these movies. Legendary filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock was frequently acknowledged as an example of the auteur theory when it was first developed, as his works were often associated with themes and techniques that were unique to him. During the golden age of Hollywood, studios pumped out films in a factory-style nature, which prevented directors from having as much freedom to shape and control projects as they do today. However, few directors were given as much freedom as Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock's craft spanned over more than 50 years, from 1919 to 1976, and he was effortlessly able to convey his own signature style in both the American and British film industry, with his engagement with the horror and thriller genres, and a little dabble in black comedy here and there. French filmmaker Francis Truffaut claimed that film was a medium where directors could express their ideas. This would therefore lead to the belief that the director could be regarded as the auteur of film, with a distinctive style that can be easily recognized through their filmography. Alfred Hitchcock is such a filmmaker with a notable personal signature. Credited with 53 films over a span of 51 years across the thriller genre, with an apparent uniformity in themes and subject matter across all the films. Hitchcock, dubbed the master of suspense, played with audiences' nerves across his films. His films tackled themes such as sexuality. Psycho was one such example, pushing the film's boundaries with a toilet flush. I joke, but that was actually considered pushing boundaries in 1960. But in Psycho, Hitchcock pushed the areas of acceptability. A film so controversial that even Hitchcock, who through the 50s had no real issue in getting his films made, struggled to get it financed, with Paramount initially rejecting the film. Psycho was explicit in its sexuality and violence, and made no apology for it. From the very first scene, we are greeted with a couple sharing a bed. Controversial, and Marion is in a bra. You know what this implies they were just doing? These scenes only a few years earlier would never have been accepted. Hitchcock's films were characterized by pushing these boundaries of sexuality at a time through his films, often using symbolism as a metaphor for sex. A notable example of this being in North by Northwest in the final scene of the film. In Psycho, Rope and Strangers on a Train, Hitchcock highlighted areas of taboo with gender non-conformality, with characters often coded to be homosexual, such as in Rope and Strangers on a Train. While the Oedipus complex, which Sigmund Freud stated as, while he is still a small child, a son will already begin to develop a special affection for his mother, whom he regards as belonging to him. He begins to feel his father as a rival, who disputes his sole possession. Freud's theories believe that the son wants to kill his father and takes his mother as a wife. This theme is explored thoroughly in Psycho through the character of Norman Bates. Through Psycho, Norman is very attached to his mother, reacting aggressively when his mother is questioned. When Norman starts to feel sexual attraction towards another woman in Marion, his mother's side takes over. The fascination of the wrongfully accused is another significant part of Hitchcock's signature. His psychological fascination with a wrongful accused, mistaken identity, and imprisonment is reflected in many of his films. The leading man is often accused as being the wrong man, who is then, through unfortunate circumstances, forced to find the true culprit to prove his innocence. This can be seen in one of his earlier British-made films, The Lodger, which first introduced this trope of mistaken identity. can be later found in other works, such as The 39 Steps, and is most well developed in North by Northwest, when an ad man, Roger Thornhill, is mistaken for fictitious agent George Kaplan, who is then mistaken for the assassination of a UN official. Kaplan finds himself chased across the country not just by the spying, but by the entire US government in a desperate attempt to clear his name. German Expressionism had a profound impact on Hitchcock's visual expressions in his films, which are marked by cinematic techniques for the use of camera viewpoints, elaborate editing, and soundtrack to build suspense, with recurrent motives such as the use of staircases, as seen in Strangers on a Train, Vertigo, and Psycho, sinister houses in Psycho, and chasms, like in Vertigo and North by Northwest. And Hitchcock would often use the use of national landmarks. We can see this in films such as Vertigo with the Golden Gate Bridge and North by Northwest, which includes the landmarks of the United Nations building and the climactic scene on the face of Mount Rushmore. His movies were marked by elaborate editing and camera work to build suspense. One of Hitchcock's most notable works, Psycho, included a point-of-view shot of Norman Bates watching Marion Crane through a peephole, which is related to the Kuleshov effect, to build a sense of suspense towards the scene. An auteur will often reuse actors for his films, thus becoming characteristic of the director's films. Alfred Hitchcock was very well known to do this, most notably with the actors James Stewart and Cary Grant, who both appeared in 4 of Hitchcock's films, often as an everyman figure who often unintentionally gets caught up in the thrilling events of the film. Hitchcock would also cast similar-looking women to his films as the main heroine, most notably Grace Kelly. These were the icy blonde, a beautiful, classy, elegant woman who carries an air of mystery. She uses sex, but subtly. She carries the film as an unexpected source of duplicity, and can be cunning and an intelligent adversary. These are strong women. Films such as Vertigo and Notorious included prime examples of Hitchcock's trademark of the complacent woman, forced into a transformation to become a different person. The role of mother was also thoroughly explored, both adoring and deadly, as is observed in Strangers on a Train and Psycho. Of course, Grace Kelly was the most notable of the Hitchcock blondes, who appeared in 3 of Hitchcock's films, Dial M for Murder, Rear Window, and To Catch a Thief, all in succession. Hitchcock used feminine beauty to explore the duplicity of beauty, and if it is just skin deep, with an air of confidence and dare, but underneath the dare is a woman with a strong heart, who's vulnerable and troubled, an antithesis to the leading man that she was with, while sometimes they were just regular women, forced to rise by the themes of a movie. In Rear Window, for example, Jimmy Stewart is paralyzed, a passive observer. All Stewart can do is observe. It is the women in the film, Grace Kelly and Stewart's nurse, who take the active role. These women are strong but never lose touch with their femininity. Kelly encapsulated the role of the Hitchcock blonde, and after she retired from filming, Hitchcock became obsessed with recreating her, a theme that he'll also follow up in one of his films to come, Vertigo, and with Kelly's departure, a string of blondes that followed, such as Eva Marie Saint, Kim Novak, Doris Day, and Tippi Hedren, all to try and recreate what Grace Kelly had. The emasculation of the male characters and the fear of loss of the male identity is evident across Hitchcock's discography, again taken from Freudian ideas. According to Freud's castration anxiety theory, once a male becomes aware of the differences between male and female genitalia around 3 to 5 years old, he assumes that a female penis has fallen off, and thus fears the loss of his own, metaphorically. Where man feels he is losing his masculinity, or it has been taken. In Vertigo, these themes of castration anxiety are evident from the title sequence. Through the film, Jimmy Stewart's character Scotty feels this masculinity, with the theme of falling constant in the movie, with Scotty's vertigo acrophobia acting as a metaphor for his castration anxiety. This is made explicit when he asks, "Do you suppose many men wear corsets?" In Vertigo, the fall of the policeman in the opening scene and Scotty's failure to save him serves as a metaphor of his impotence. He attempts to regain his phallus in an assignment by protecting Madeline. At the core of any thriller movie is that of mystery, and Vertigo exemplifies this. Through clever exposition between James Ferguson and his friend Gavin, Hitchcock establishes an awe of mystery surrounding the character of Madeline, who is essentially possessed by a spirit who lived a century before. However, Ferguson fails. His vertigo, his acrophobia, has feminized him. He is unable to live up to his own masculine ideals. Vertigo follows the themes of obsession, With Hitchcock noted for his engagement with the thriller genre, one of the key conventions of thrillers is that of obsession and stalking. This can be seen through Stewart following Madeline across San Francisco in Vertigo. Themes of obsession are evident, and are probably maybe a self-reflection of Hitchcock himself. When he meets a woman named Judy, months after Madeline's death, that has a striking resemblance to her. He forces Judy to wear Madeline's clothes, necklaces, and to dye her hair, the same pure blonde as Madeline had. With Scotty's desire of transforming Judy into Madeline a fetishization, as Scotty attempts to exert his phallus domination to regain his manhood and dominance. As discussed earlier, this theme of obsession can be probably seen as a mirror to Hitchcock himself in how he tried to recreate his actresses to be Grace Kelly following her departure after she married the Prince of Monaco. Hitchcock was most noted for his engagement with the thriller genre and was credited by many as the master of suspense. Characterized by suspense, excitement, anticipation, and anxiety, common elements in thrillers included plot, twists, psychology, obsession, and mind games, which Hitchcock explored through the roots of psychology, often having taken from Freudian themes. Hitchcock would stamp his own personal signature in this film, making a brief cameo in 39 of his 53 films. Film composer Bernard Herrmann conducted the scores to many of Hitchcock's most iconic works, which included Psycho, Vertigo, and North by Northwest, giving them a signature suspenseful feel to them and a memorable score. Hitchcock also had a long collaboration with screenwriter John Michael Hayes. Hayes would provide the scripts to many of Hitchcock's most notable work during the middle of the 1950s, including Rear Window, To Catch a Thief, Trouble with Harry, and The Man Who Knew Too Much. The Hitchcock-Hayes collaboration indicates that Hitchcock's artistic vision was not his alone, and were often reshaped by Hayes' writing. Hitchcock, though, downplayed the role of Hayes, saying he was a radio writer who wrote the dialogue. Hitchcock had near total involvement in the films, in the structure and the content of the screenplay, the development of plot, themes, and the images, in the selection of cast and settings, in the style of lighting, and the placement and movement of the cameras, in the moods created, sustained and shifted, the subtle manipulation of the audience fears and desires, the economy and wit of the narrative, and the pacing and the rhythms of the film's final cutting. Therefore, Hitchcock's case, he could be credited as an auteur, and his works directly linked to him. Hitchcock, though, himself once said about the auteur theory, people embrace the auteur theory, but it is difficult to know what someone means by it. Very often, the director is no better than the script. In regards to the definition of an auteur by Soros, Hitchcock successfully adheres to all this criteria with notable characteristics across all his works. Hitchcock is an auteur. His form of filmmaking is characterized today by Hitchcockerian themes, and in ways helped establish the thriller genre in cinema. Hitchcock established his own character types, themes, and narrative tropes. Hitchcock film was not just a horror film genre, it was its own genre, its own thing. It was a Hitchcock movie, and people knew that. Thank you guys, and if you enjoyed that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.